Okay, so let me set the scene for you. There I was, standing in this over-the-top suite at the Ritz-Carlton in Chicago, half my hair pinned up like a Pinterest fail, mascara smudged because I'd been freaking out since breakfast. Me, Emily Carter, 25, just your average gal from some forgettable suburb where the biggest excitement is a new Taco Bell opening. I'd busted my tail through community college, juggled waitressing shifts at Denny's and a greasy diner, and somehow landed a halfway decent gig in advertising. Nothing glamorous, but it paid the bills. That day was supposed to be my big win, my wedding day. The dress? Oh man, it was this dreamy lace number with just enough sparkle to make me feel like a low-budget princess. I'd saved up for months, skipping Starbucks runs and living off ramen to afford it. My fiancé, Ryan, was probably downstairs, sweating through his tux. He's from one of those loaded families, think private jets and summer homes, and I was still wrapping my head around how a guy like him picked a girl like me. The room was a total circus. My girls, Madison, Ashley, and Olivia, were running around like they'd chugged a gallon of Red Bull each. Madison was fiddling with my veil, muttering about how it wasn't sitting right, while Ashley was thrusting a mimosa at me, going, "Dude, chill already, you're gonna slay this." Olivia was sprawled on the couch, scrolling TikTok and cackling about how I'd probably faceplant down the aisle. Thanks, bestie. Madison had her phone blasting some top 40 playlist, probably Taylor Swift or whatever's trending, and I was trying to vibe, sipping that mimosa even though it was like 11 a.m. I was almost feeling good, you know? Almost. But there was this nagging vibe in my gut, and it wasn't just the cheap champagne. Ryan's mom, Victoria Wilson, had been gunning for me since day one. She's this tall, frosty blonde who looks like she invented Botox, always rocking pearls, and a vibe that screams, "I own this room." She'd been dropping hints forever that I wasn't good enough for her baby boy, called me new money once, which is hilarious because I'm, like, no money. I'd been brushing it off, figuring I'd win her over eventually. Spoiler, I was dead wrong. We were maybe an hour from showtime, and things were finally clicking. Olivia had ditched her phone to help with my makeup, and I was starting to feel like a legit bride instead of a hot mess. That's when it all hit the fan. There was this commotion out in the hall. Yelling, stomping, the works. My stomach did a flip, like when you know you're about to get busted for something. The girls stopped cold, mid-laugh, and before anyone could even blink, the door flew open like we were in some cheesy Lifetime movie. In stormed Victoria, looking like she'd just escaped a reality TV meltdown, eyes bugging out, red lipstick smeared like she'd been screaming into the void. And, in her hands, the crispy, smoking leftovers of my wedding dress. Yup, my pride and joy, the one I'd cried over picking out, was now a pile of ash and melted sequins. She was clutching it like she'd just won an Oscar for Worst Human Ever. And the smell, oh man, it was like burnt toast meets regret, hit me right in the face. The room turned into a freaking statue garden. Madison's phone slipped out of her hand and clattered on the floor, killing the music. Ashley's mimosa glass hit the deck and shattered. R.I.P. to that $20 flute. And Olivia just sat there, mouth open like a fish. I was standing there, rooted to the spot, staring at this woman who was supposed to be my mother-in-law, holding the wreckage of my big day. She had this smug little grin, like she just pulled off the heist of the century, and then she laid into me. Didn't even yell, just said it real slow and icy, like she was ordering a latte. "There's no wedding today, Emily. My son deserves better than some small-town nobody who doesn't even know which fork to use." Ouch, right? I was shaking like a leaf, legs wobbly, brain stuck on that smoldering pile at my feet. The girls were still frozen, probably wondering if this was some prank show. Victoria chucked the ashes right at me. Classy move. And turned to strut out, head high like she'd just saved the family name. I was this close to flipping out, yelling, bawling, maybe chucking a lamp at her, who knows, when it hit me like a truck. I'd set up this dinky little webcam in the corner earlier. Nothing fancy, just a cheap live stream for my cousins and high school crew who couldn't swing the trip. It had been rolling the whole time, quietly catching every unhinged second for the folks back home. And right then, it had Victoria's full-on villain arc streaming live to who knows how many people, my Aunt Linda, my old coworker Dave, probably half my graduating class. She had no idea, but that cocky little exit of hers? It was about to turn into her worst nightmare. I shot a look at Madison, and she was already scrambling for her phone, eyes wide as she pieced it together. I took a shaky breath, thinking, oh, lady, you just messed with the wrong bride. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. So, there I was, still standing in that Ritz-Carlton suite, staring at the pile of ashes that used to be my wedding dress, my brain doing cartwheels trying to process what just happened. Victoria had just dropped her little victory bomb and strutted out like she'd won the Super Bowl of petty, leaving me and the girls in this stunned silence. The air still stank of burnt lace, and I could feel my pulse hammering in my ears. Madison was clutching her phone like it was a lifeline. Ashley was muttering something about needing another mimosa. Stat, and Olivia just kept blinking, like maybe if she tried hard enough, she'd wake up from this nightmare.
Me?
I was somewhere between wanting to ugly cry into a pillow and yeeting Victoria's designer purse out the window. But then, oh man, things got wild. See, Victoria wasn't done. She'd paused in the hallway just long enough to turn back and lay into me some more, like she needed to twist the knife. She leaned against the doorframe, all smug and polished in her overpriced blazer, and started ranting. Ryan's never going to tie himself to some chick who thinks Olive Garden's fine dining, she said, her voice dripping with that rich lady venom. I've already told everyone you bolted. Couldn't handle the pressure of real money. Poor thing. She even did this fake pout, like she was auditioning for a soap opera. I swear, if I wasn't so shell-shocked, I'd have laughed in her face. Olive Garden? Lady, I'd kill for their breadsticks right now. But she kept going, spinning this whole story about how I'd fled the wedding, too scared to step into her fancy world. The girls were bristling. Madison's jaw was clenched so tight I thought she'd crack a molar, but Victoria didn't notice. She was too busy basking in her own brilliance. That's when it hit her. Or, well, it hit us first. My phone, sitting on the dresser, started buzzing like a ticked-off hornet's nest. Texts, calls, notifications, ding, 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 non-stop. I grabbed it, hands shaky, and saw my cousin Jake's name pop up. What the heck is going on? Your live stream's blowing up. Then a Slack from my old work buddy Sarah. Girl, your MIL is unhinged. Everyone's watching. My heart did a flip. That dinky webcam I'd set up for the folks who couldn't come? It wasn't just streaming to my family. It had gone public somehow, probably when Madison fat-fingered the settings earlier. And now, Victoria's whole evil monologue was live, raw, and uncut for the entire internet to see. I mean, we're talking Aunt Linda, my high school gym teacher, random strangers on X, everyone had front row seats to her meltdown. She didn't get it at first. She was still smirking, brushing imaginary lint off her sleeve, when Madison, bless her, held up her phone and showed her the screen. The live stream chat was a war zone. Who's this psycho lady? Someone save the bride. This is better than Netflix. Victoria's face went from smug to ghost white faster than you can say viral. She snatched the phone, scrolled for like 2 seconds, and then dropped it like it was radioactive. This isn't happening, she stammered, her perfect composure cracking like cheap nail polish. I couldn't help it. I let out this shaky little laugh, half relief, half disbelief. Oh, it's happening, I said under my breath, watching her world implode in real time. And then, the door swung open again. In walked Ryan, looking like he'd just sprinted up 3 flights of stairs, tie loose, hair a mess, eyes wide. He'd been downstairs with the groomsmen, probably chugging a beer and dodging his uncle's bad jokes, when someone showed him the feed. He stopped dead, taking in the scene, me, shell-shocked in my robe, the girls, hovering like bodyguards, and his mom, clutching her pearls like they'd save her. Mom, what did you do? He said, voice low, like he couldn't believe it. Victoria tried to spin it, started babbling about protecting the family and standards, but he wasn't buying it. He looked at me, then at the ashes on the floor, and I swear I saw something click in his head. For the first time, he wasn't just seeing his mom, he was seeing her. The real her. And let me tell you, That look on his face? It was worth more than any dress money could buy. Picture me still standing there in that Ritz-Carlton suite, robe wrinkled, hair a disaster, the ashes of my wedding dress scattered like some sad confetti. Victoria had just gotten her smug little world rocked by the live stream reveal, and Ryan was in the room now, staring her down like he'd finally peeled back the curtain on her true self. The girls, Madison, Ashley, and Olivia, were huddled around me, still buzzing from the chaos, while my phone kept lighting up with texts and notifications I didn't have the brain power to check. I was a mess, caught between wanting to curl up with a tub of Ben and Jerry's and hoping this was all some fever dream after too many late-night Taco Bell runs. But then Ryan stepped up, and holy crap, it was like watching a movie hero come to life. He didn't say much at first, just looked at his mom, then at me, then back at the pile of charred lace on the floor. Victoria was floundering, trying to claw her way back with some nonsense about family honor and how I'd never fit in. She even threw in a jab about my taste in Target clearance rack shoes, like, okay, lady, they're cute and I'm broke, sue me. But Ryan wasn't having it. He cut her off mid-rant, voice steady but sharp, and said something like, Mom, you've gone way too far this time. No yelling, no big scene, just this quiet fury that shut her up cold. She blinked at him, mouth flapping like a fish out of water, and I could tell she wasn't used to him pushing back. Me neither, honestly. Ryan was usually the chill guy who'd rather crack a beer than a confrontation. But that day, he was done. Then he turned to me, and I swear, my heart did a little flip despite the dumpster fire around us. We're not letting this ruin everything, he said, grabbing my hand like we were about to storm a castle. I don't care if you're in that robe or a garbage bag, we're doing this. I couldn't even get a word out, just nodded like an idiot, still half convinced I'd wake up any second. That's when Madison, my ride or die since we bonded over bad perms in middle school, snapped into gear. Wait, hold up, she said, eyes lighting up like she'd just cracked the code to free Wi-Fi. That boutique downtown, the one we shot that ad for last month, they've got a dress. Like, the dress. It's still there, I bet. She was already on her phone, texting someone from work, while Ashley started barking orders at the hotel staff like she was running a military op. The room turned into organized chaos. Olivia ran to grab the concierge, who looked equal parts confused and terrified when she told him we needed a car and a miracle, stat. Madison was pacing, muttering about how the boutique owed her a favor after she'd saved their last campaign from a typo disaster. Bridals instead of brides. Classic mix-up. Meanwhile, Victoria tried to slink out, probably hoping to dodge the fallout, but Ryan's dad, Richard, showed up just in time to block her exit. He'd been downstairs sipping a bourbon, watching a live stream with the rest of the guests, and let me tell you, he was pissed. Not loud angry, but that scary dad angry where you know you're toast. Victoria, sit down, he said, voice like gravel. You're not going anywhere until we sort this. She froze, clutching her handbag like it was her last shred of dignity, and I almost felt bad for her. Almost. While all this was going down, Ryan pulled me aside, away from the madness. I've got an idea, he said, rubbing the back of his neck like he does when he's nervous. The guests are still out there, probably placing bets on whether we're calling it quits. I say we don't let him down. I just stare at him, brain still buffering, but he had this goofy little grin, like the one he'd flash when we'd sneak fries at midnight in his truck. Trust me, he added, squeezing my hand. We're turning this around. Before I could ask what the heck he meant, he grabbed his phone, texted one of the groomsmen, and bolted for the door, yelling over his shoulder that he'd be right back. Madison was still on her mission, the staff were scrambling, and I was left standing there, thinking, what is this man about to do with a microphone and a room full of confused rich people? Turns out I was about to find out. Ryan had just bolted out of that Ritz-Carlton suite with some cryptic plan involving a microphone, leaving me standing there in my crumpled robe, still processing the whirlwind of the last hour. Madison was off orchestrating her dress rescue mission like she was auditioning for a heist movie. The hotel staff were zipping around like caffeinated squirrels, and Richard had Victoria cornered in the hallway, looking like he was about 2 seconds from revoking her country club membership. My girls, Ashley and Olivia, were still hovering near me, Ashley fanning herself with a magazine and Olivia scrolling X to see how many people were roasting Victoria online. I was a jittery mess, half expecting Ryan to come back and say we were calling it quits, half hoping he'd pull off whatever crazy stunt he was cooking up. Spoiler: he didn't disappoint. Downstairs, the guests were still milling around the ballroom, probably whispering about the live stream and wondering if they'd wasted their dry cleaning budget. I didn't know it yet, still stuck upstairs trying not to trip over the ashes of my old dress, but Ryan had grabbed the mic from the DJ booth and climbed onto a chair like he was about to lead a pep rally. Later, his buddy Jake told me how it went down. Ryan, tie loose and hair all over the place, tapped the mic and waited for the chatter to die down. "Hey, everybody," he started, voice a little shaky but firm. "You've probably seen the mess upstairs." Yeah, my mom kinda torched my fiancé's dress, long story. But here's the thing, weddings aren't about perfect dresses or fancy flowers. They're about two people who've got each other's backs, even when everything's going up in flames, literally. The room went quiet, then erupted in claps and a few ahs from the sentimental aunts in the back. Back upstairs, Madison burst through the door like a tornado, hauling this gorgeous backup dress from the boutique. It was the sleek, off-white number we'd used for an ad shoot, simple but stunning, way less fussy than my original pick. They owed me big time after I saved their last flyer from a clip art disaster, she panted, tossing it onto the bed. The girls sprang into action. Olivia yanked me into the bathroom to fix my makeup. Ashley started steaming the dress with some handheld gadget she'd sweet-talked from housekeeping, and Madison barked at the concierge to stall the ceremony for 10 minutes. I was still dazed, letting them shove me into the dress like I was a mannequin, but when I caught a glimpse in the mirror, dang, I looked good, like, forget the ashes, I'm owning this good. By the time we got downstairs, the vibe had shifted. Ryan was waiting at the altar, grinning like a kid who'd just won a carnival prize, and the guests were buzzing with this weird mix of shock and excitement. Victoria was off to the side, sulking next to Richard, who'd basically grounded her like a misbehaving teenager. I walked down the aisle, no tripping, "Thank you very much," and the officiant, this chill guy with a beard, leaned into the moment. "Folks," he said, "this isn't just a marriage. It's a union that's already survived a trial by fire and come out stronger." The crowd ate it up, clapping like we'd just pulled off a magic trick. Ryan grabbed my hand, whispered, "Told you we'd make it," and I couldn't help but laugh. We said our vows, kissed to a standing ovation, and for a minute, it felt like the universe had finally cut me a break. But Victoria wasn't done, not quite. As we headed to cut the cake, she tried one last Hail Mary, cornering Ryan near the dessert table. "You're making a mistake," she hissed, voice low but desperate. "She'll drag you down. Think about your future." Richard overheard, stepped in, and shut it down hard. "Enough, Vic," he said, loud enough for half the room to hear. "You've embarrassed us enough today. Sit down or leave." She went red, then stormed off to the bar, probably plotting her next move. Me? I was too busy smashing cake in Ryan's face, vanilla, my favorite, to care. The night ended with us dancing to some cheesy 90s song, guests snapping pics, and X still buzzing about the wedding that wouldn't die. Question was, what was that woman going to do next, now that she'd lost the war? After that wild wedding night at the Ritz-Carlton, where Ryan and I somehow pulled off the idos, despite his mom turning my dress into a bonfire, life didn't just settle down. It took off like a rocket. I'd left the reception high on adrenaline, vanilla cake still smeared on my cheek from our little food fight, and the guests buzzing about how we'd turned chaos into the party of the year. Victoria had slunk off to the bar after Richard put her in her place, and for a hot minute, I thought maybe that was the end of her reign of terror. Spoiler alert. It wasn't over yet, but we'll get to that. First, let me tell you how that mess flipped our whole world upside down in a good way, for once. The next few days were a blur. My phone wouldn't stop pinging, texts from cousins, DMs from randoms on X, even a voicemail from my old boss saying, "You're trending harder than a Black Friday sale at Walmart." Turns out, the live stream had gone full-on viral. Clips of Victoria's meltdown were everywhere, YouTube, TikTok, Even some local news station picked it up with a headline like "Bride's Big Day Saved from MILzilla." People were eating it up, dropping comments like "This is why I eloped," and "Give that girl a medal." Ryan and I crashed at his buddy's condo downtown, hiding out with a pile of takeout pizza and a six-pack of Miller Lite, just laughing at the absurdity of it all. I mean, I'd gone from stressing over centerpieces to being some internet hero overnight.
Wild, right?
But it wasn't just memes and likes. Victoria's stunt had bigger fallout. Richard, who I'd always pegged as the quiet, "yes dear" type, laid down the law. He'd watched the whole live stream with the guests, bourbon in hand, jaw tighter with every word she'd spewed, and decided enough was enough. A week later, he called a family meeting, no kids allowed, and by the time it was over, Victoria was out. Like out, cut off from the Wilson family business, some fancy real estate empire I still didn't fully get. Rumor was she'd lost her stake in their vacation home in Aspen too. She tried calling Ryan, leaving these long, guilt-trippy voicemails about forgiveness and legacy, but he wasn't biting. She crossed a line, he told me one night, flipping through channels on our thrift store couch. "I'm done letting her run the show." Richard backed him up, and for the first time, I saw where Ryan got his backbone. Meanwhile, the buzz wasn't dying down, it was growing. Brands started sliding into my inbox. Some bridal company wanted me to rep their drama-proof dresses. A local bakery offered free cupcakes for life if I'd tag them in a post. I even got a LinkedIn message from a marketing firm saying my resilience was inspirational. Like, okay, I guess dodging a psycho MIL is a transferable skill now. Ryan and I just rolled with it, using the hype to kick off something bigger. His family's foundation, which usually funded boring stuff like golf tournaments, pivoted hard. They launched this initiative for women dealing with toxic family crap. Think therapy grants, support hotlines, the works. We called it Through the Fire, because why not lean into the joke? I threw myself into it, partly to stick it to Victoria, partly because it felt good to turn our mess into something real. Victoria didn't vanish, though. A few months later, she showed up at our new apartment. Uninvited, of course, looking less polished, more desperate. She'd heard about the foundation, saw the headlines calling her out, and tried playing nice. "I just want a chance to make things right," she said, standing in our doorway with a bottle of wine I'm pretty sure she'd regifted. Ryan didn't budge. "Therapy first, Mom," he told her, arms crossed. "And a real apology, not this fake Hallmark stuff." She huffed off, but I caught a flicker in her eyes, like maybe she'd actually think about it.
Me?
I wasn't holding my breath. I'd already decided forgiving her wasn't my job, living my best life was. Things were finally clicking, Ryan and I were solid, the foundation was taking off, and I'd even started joking about the whole fiasco without flinching. Then, one random Tuesday, we're scarfing down Chipotle bowls on the floor, because who needs a dining table, when my phone buzzes with an email. Some producer from a streaming service wanted to chat. "Your story's got legs," it read. "Ever thought about a documentary?" I nearly choked on my guac. Ryan just grinned, like he'd seen it coming. "Told you we're unstoppable," he said, tossing me a napkin. And honestly, after surviving that wedding, I was starting to believe him.